What do illegal immigrants and dangerous criminals have in common? They all love Keir Starmer. Big up Keir Starmer, this man shouted as he was one of more than 1,000 criminals released early today. Here's apparently Daniel Dowling Brooks, who was let out to free up space despite being convicted of kidnap and grievous bodily harm. He was collected by his family in a £150,000 Bentley and a Mercedes G-Wagon. Then there's this chap who moaned about his prison conditions.
Food is no good. Inside the shower is all mold, no good. Obviously bad language with the prisoner. This is very helpful people. Do you understand? And I should people talk about these people inside. And it's very situation is very bullying inside.
My heart bleeds. He then got into a Lamborghini and drove off.
Keep going.
37 dangerous criminals were released by accident during the first round of early releases a few months ago, and Labour's Justice Minister Shabana Mahmood was questioned about that earlier today.
That issue has now been rectified. That won't happen again. All 37 of those men were returned to custody, and their victims are now being kept up to date. Yeah, I think nobody, I could not have imagined that there would be people in our system charged and sentenced against an older Act of Parliament and not the newer law that had come in 2020. So I think that is actually a unique set of circumstances.
Oh, yeah, unforeseen circumstances. Maybe it's actually because they can't keep track of everyone, because earlier today, our reporter Sophie Reaper was outside HMP Kirkham, and she saw a bloke hop a barbed wire fence and get away in a black car that was waiting outside.
Earlier when we were reporting, we saw a man appear on top of this fence, which you can see in the distance, which is topped with barbed wire. He jumped down to where a black vehicle was waiting for him with the car door open. He hopped in the vehicle and the vehicle left at speed. Now, the police are now investigating and the prison have told us that a roll call will now need to take place to try and determine exactly which prisoner it is that's managed to escape from HMP Kirkham.
You can see that the hive of activity outside that prison, can't you, when they realise that someone's absconded? You know, what we'll do a roll call and we'll just take it from there. Madness, isn't it? But this is what you get when you have a Justice Minister who apparently wants to do things like close all women's prisons, and a Prisons Minister who essentially ran campaigns on giving criminals a second chance. Starmer's spokesperson said this today: the Prime Minister shares the public's anger at these scenes, and he thinks it's shocking that any government should ever inherit the crisis that this government has when it comes to our prisons. But just to be clear, there was no choice not to act. If we had not acted, we would have faced a complete paralysis of the system. Well, I think people will probably have more sympathy for that had Keir Starmer not just appointed the former Conservative Justice Minister David Gauke to conduct a review of prison sentencing. Surely that's the one that Starmer's blaming for this mess. Also, 12% of the prison population are foreign nationals, reportedly. Maybe Keir Starmer could start by deporting them. Or would that upset his mates in North London? Anyway, he doesn't understand people's anger. People are actually angry because of him. Well, we've got a GBH and kidnap hooligan being whisked away in a Bentley so we can make way for people like Peter Lynch, who was sentenced to an unprecedented 2 years and 8 months for a non-violent offence during the disorder this summer. He reportedly took his own life in prison at the weekend. Keir Starmer has made a choice. He's chosen, in my view, to be on the side of proper wrong-uns. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. We are joined by the political editor at the Daily Express, Sam Lister. We've also got the director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity, Stephen Wolfe, and the former Labour Minister, Bill Rammell. Sam, I'll start with you. We've got people hopping barbed wire fences and getting into getaway vehicles. We've got people being legitimately let out and driving off in £150,000 Bentleys. This isn't justice, is it? It's a circus.
No, I mean, I don't know why he bothered hopping the fence. Give it a couple of weeks and they'd have let him out the front door. I mean, it seems a bit pointless, really. I think let's be clear here. This is not. These are not low-level offenders. Today's wave of releases, these are people who've been serving 5 years or more. They are serious criminals. They are hardened criminals. Daniel Dowling Brooks, I think it's worth reiterating, he was in there for kidnap. You know, it's not a light offence, is it? And it's an insult to the victims that these people are being let out early. It's particularly insulting to see them picked up in these ridiculously expensive vehicles that most people could never dream of affording on an honest day's salary. And I think this is a big problem for them. I think Priti Patel's written a piece for our paper tonight where she says, while Keir Starmer's been taking freebies to Taylor Swift and taking a box at the Arsenal football match, he's letting criminals out onto the street. Our streets have got less safe as a result.
Well, and we're letting some of these people out so that people like Peter Lynch, for example, who sadly appears to have taken his own life reportedly in prison at the weekend, who was locked up for 2 years and 8 months for a non-violent offence during the riots, so they can squeeze people like him in. I mean, if you took a straw poll of the public, which one would we rather have behind bars? You know, the kidnapped GBH man or Peter Lynch?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all this is saying is crime pays, and crime pays big when you see the amount of the cars that are coming out. I was actually thinking to myself, should I go in prison? Because that way I might come out with a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's very clear to the public that the Labour Party is failing on this point. And it's also going to have an impact on the movie scene. You're going to have things like the movie Prison Break. They're not even going to bother anymore. It's going to be Prison Open. Uber for Prisons is going to set up the new TV show and a new business, because that's how many is going to flow through. Another 5,500 is what they're planning over the next few months. And all the while, we're seeing Twitter criminals go to prison.
Why aren't Labour telling us how many of the people they've already released have been recalled?
I think those figures have been made available.
Yeah,
but look,
just said it's a lot of them.
Right. Let's get to the heart of this. We can have a debate across the board about the inheritance from the last Tory government, but there is no area of public policy where this is as much the responsibility of the Tory government as this one. Sunak was repeatedly told by his Justice Secretary, you either build more prisons or you agree to early release. He did neither. It was criminal irresponsibility. And if we hadn't agreed to the early release scheme, then really serious criminals, there wouldn't have been a place to put them in. And it's not a dramatic change. You know, there was already early release after 50% of the sentence. This is after 40%. And there are safeguards in place. So we have no alternative.
No, it's 60%. It's after 40% of what they've actually gone into prison. So they're getting a 60% reduction.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said, Stephen. You were able to be released after 50%. It's now 40% of the sentence. And, you know, we do need to build more prisons. This government is committed to it. But we also need a broader debate about sensible prison sentences. And again, that's what the government has initiated, because serious criminals need to be locked up for longer, but there are some people going to prison where it's not in their or our interests.
Is it not a perception, Sam, that actually Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are on the side of some of these people? I mean, they won't even call people illegal immigrants anymore. They're irregular migrants. I mean, presumably some of these people are irregular shoppers. You know, they go into shops on Oxford Street and they take the Chanel bag. Yeah, we would pay for it. Well, I wouldn't. It's not my style. But, you know, people pay for it. But these people, they just go in and just take it. They're just irregular shoppers. I mean, is there not a sense that Keir Starmer and the Labour Party here, they want to shut women's prisons down? They've got Mr Timpson, who I've got nothing personally against, by the way. He's run a fantastic business and all of that stuff, but he's not exactly pro-prison, is he? He thinks that everyone deserves a second and a third chance. You know, this is soft on justice, isn't it?
Well, I think there's lots of different issues there. Shoplifting has effectively been decriminalised in this country, and that has been for quite some time. That isn't just down to Labour. Let's be right about that. But
no,
we have a...
How?
By making it clear that you will be prosecuted for shoplifting. That's not what happened under the last Tory government.
Well, let's look at that.
I haven't noticed any big decrease in the
big up Keir Starmer.
For 16 weeks.
Yeah,
you can't say that you made a difference then. If you know, you can't argue both things. You made a difference.
But the sentencing guidelines have changed that will begin to tackle that. But you know, you criticise James Timpson. Short prison sentences actually create crime, because people go into prison for a short period, they come out and then they commit crimes again. We should also be looking, for example, we should be looking at some of the examples overseas that really work, like in Texas, where under a Republican governor, there's been rewards for prisoners who engage in rehabilitation and they get shorter sentences.
All the police in Texas have guns, Bill, and I think as we're going to find out at 10 p.m, if they ever use those guns, then anyone who apparently apparently is in the Labour Party would probably like to see them locked up for life. But, yeah, we'll probably get onto that a bit later on. But, I mean, what kind of message is this sending out, seriously, to people who are out there now, who are victims of crime, who feel like it's lawless Britain? You know, you've got these people just being allowed to wander out back to a life of luxury. It's ridiculous.
I grew up on a pretty nasty estate, first of all, Moss Side, and then parts of Burnage, which was pretty well recognised.
Bernage. Now it's been gentrified.
It's posh now.
Yeah, some parts of it is, but there's parts of it that are still not. You know, the parts that Liam and Noel Gallagher and I grew up have still not changed very much, I have to admit. But all it's saying to them is, look, we look around of those criminals who are walking the streets. They're going in. It's difficult enough to get them locked up. You've got the court system that's actually going to lose another 5,500 days of court time in the Crown Court, according to the emails that we got from the Bar Council today and released by the Justice Secretary. We've got police that are actually not going after offences such as shoplifting, and all they will do is see them back on the streets, and it's terrifying.
The solution is to deport the foreign criminals. 12% of people in British prisons, apparently, or on remand, are foreign criminals. Surely the solution is to get rid of those people, and then you free up space, and you don't have to, you know, let out, you know, Shanky McGunface, who's just wandered out of wherever that is there. You know, you can just get rid of these people who are, you know, criminals from a different country. But I don't know whether that might lose Keir Starmer a few friends on the dinner party circuit.
Well, you know, that is something that he's deeply concerned about, as we know. But I think, essentially, we have to look at the first wave. 37 people were incorrectly let out in that first wave. And so you talked about the safeguards. Well, actually, the safeguards didn't work. They were people who were domestic abusers, sex offenders. They were let out. Now, that was in that first wave where these were actually more minor criminals. We're now on to the more serious criminals. I don't think the public really understand why serious hardened criminals of serving over 5 years sentences are being let out in this wave. I think they look at people who've been jailed for making idiotic comments on Twitter and then see people like our friend there who went off in their Lamborghini.
I find it difficult to see, again, look, we are going to come on to this at 10pm, how Labour can say that they are on the side of law and order when we currently have a Labour MP who is on record today saying that his main role at the moment is to be on the side of the family of Chris Cabba, after the evidence finally came out about that guy's criminal history, you know, essentially being the trigger man for a violent London gang, a criminal record dating back to the age of 13. And a Labour politician has come out today going, you know, I'm really here for the family. What about our police officer that was, you know, dragged through 2 years of hell? I don't know. It doesn't quite add up for me. But
wholly and utterly wrong. But let's come back to the issue you raised about foreign criminals.
Yeah, go on.
And the last Labour government changed the law so that there is automatic deportation at the end of the sentence. Now, we can have a debate about, is that the right time, or do you do it at the beginning? I think some people would say if you've committed the crime, you should serve the time here to demonstrate justice. But that law was changed in 2007. Theresa May, to give her due, toughened it up in 2012. So foreign criminals are deported.
A load of Labour MPs did sign a letter bill, didn't they, to make sure that people were not deported back on a flight to Jamaica, I think. And
unfortunately, the ECHR, as it's been impacted into a common law, has prevented most of our
And we're already deporting people in record numbers.
You've got. There's a few Brazilians who've gone back and some Vietnamese as well. So to fair play.
Vietnamese, East Timor, 3,600, the biggest number in the shortest period of time on record.
Good start. It's a start. Thank you very much, all of you. A lively start to the show.